is Abby Johnson with SugarSpun Marketing, and joining us right now is Sean Jackson of Copyblogger Media. How are you doing?
Fantastic, how are you?
Good, thank you. I want to talk to you about what has come to be known as somewhat the redheaded stepchild of social media, which is LinkedIn.
Sure.
So let's talk about this platform, and you actually have a very unique perspective on it. You love it.
Yes.
So let's talk about, first of all, why it is more than just a hiring tool.
Of course. You know, I always think of LinkedIn, I think people's perception of LinkedIn is that it's the crazy old uncle that shows up at the family picnic in a three-piece suit, you know. Sure, he's part of the content marketing family, but he's a little old and not really belongs there. Well, the reality is it's actually hip and cool. It actually is bigger than Twitter. It has 380 million registered users versus Twitter, which is at 316 million. So there's a lot more people on there. There are people with higher income because they have, you know, a job. And so when you start to look at the stats, you start to quickly realize that LinkedIn is where you have an audience of large number of professionals with income who want to buy things and learn things and spend money on things. So at the end of the day, I think it is for, especially not only in B2B but B2C, it's a place where you want to go when you want to talk to people who are looking for business solutions, looking to improve their careers, and looking to spend money to do that.
Well, let's talk about what businesses can do with the platform, because obviously recently LinkedIn, they've done many things to ramp up, making it more Facebook-esque in a sense, but there are still many areas that it's a struggle for companies to utilize the platform.
I think so, but I think they've made a lot of improvements lately, and I'll give you one area that I think businesses can jump on right now for it, and even consumer brands as well. I think LinkedIn Pulse is a fantastic place to be. LinkedIn Pulse is their content network. It is for free. You can publish there. 150,000 posts a week are going into the LinkedIn Pulse network. You can re-syndicate content that you've had, you can syndicate it onto that site. And so the LinkedIn Pulse network I find to be the most fascinating and exciting because of a couple of things. First off, as we all know, Facebook is starting to limit the updates that appear in the stream, right? I think there are stats out there from John Loomer, anywhere from like 15% down to 3%. There's research that has come out that said that LinkedIn updates are hitting 20% of your followers for the first update. And if you post 20 times in a month, you hit 60% of your followers. So unlike Facebook, you are now able to engage with people more frequently without, people sitting there trying to filter what you have to say. And with the Pulse network, you can take existing content, repurpose it on there, you can create up new content, put it out there, and they give you beautiful analytics to tell you, are you reaching your demographic? Are you reaching your audience? And even more better, is that you can actually see the individual profiles of people that like and share your content. So you know, is it the CEO of X company or the CMO of Y company? So I think when you start to look at where businesses can take advantage of LinkedIn today, I really think that LinkedIn Pulse, the ability to post articles into the Pulse network, putting in images, putting in keywords, putting in tags, and really being able to get content into the hands of people that influence and make decisions on buying is a phenomenal capability and something that you really don't find in other social media networks to that extent.
So what steps would you give then for businesses to get into the Pulse network?
Certainly. I think everything starts with your profile first. You always have to spend time with your profile. We want to make sure you are not a bozo, as I like to call it, right? It's the bozo filter. It's the modern business card. Do you have a good image of yourself that you're proud of and I can see your face? Do you have a really good authoritative professional description? Have you put connections in there? Have you put a good solid summary where you use your name, not I or me, but your name, and make it meaningful? That's the first step. And then secondly, because those profiles are so important, they translate when you go into the Pulse network, right? Because the people that follow you will see those Pulse articles. The people that are looking to say, does this person really know what they're talking about? They're going to look at that profile. So I would say number one is profile. Number two is, if you're already doing active content marketing, put some of your better posts into the Pulse network. In fact, the Pulse editorial team is perfectly fine with you syndicating or taking something now and putting it in there. But I would caveat to say that when you're putting it in there, be cognitive of the keywords that you're including in it. Make sure that you know the tags, because they will auto-suggest tags to you. And then also, once it is there, make sure it has a good call to action. You know, it's always something that gets me is people will post all this stuff and there's not a strong call to action. So make sure that that action is in there, and then watch those analytics because the audience will tell you what resonates, and with the LinkedIn Pulse Network analytics, it really will make it easier for you to refine your content into that network by seeing what is resonating with the audience.
So what about from the paid perspective? I mean, how much budget, I mean, should a business, I mean, I know that's totally vague, but I mean, is the paid side essential to being successful on LinkedIn?
I don't think it's essential to being successful on LinkedIn, but I will say that I have a podcast show called The Missing Link, missinglink.fm, and one of the stories that we just did, one of the episodes we just did, was about how to advertise on LinkedIn for $500. And so no, you don't have to have a huge budget to do it, but you do have to have a mindset of testing, right? So I do think that right now there's a lot of focus in sponsored updates, and I think that's a huge win for a lot of people if they do it right. I think the better idea is to take sponsored updates, drive them to a landing page on your site, and add remarketing via Google, Facebook, etc. to that page so that people that don't convert are followed around the web with the remarketing. And I think that's a way to amplify your ad spend so that, yes, you may be paying a little bit more cost per click to get them to that landing page. However, with remarketing, you're essentially improving the results of it, and using LinkedIn's sponsored update, I think, is a great way to go. However, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't test other formats. And the key to testing the other formats in LinkedIn is if you're going to do display ads, do all of the ads. All of the display ads. Mobile is such a big part of the LinkedIn experience that you want to make sure you have your mobile ads covered. So do all of them. But for literally $500, we talked about on this one episode of how you can take $500 and test advertising on all the advertising vehicles to find the one that works for you. But certainly sponsored update is the one that's getting a lot of traction because it seems to be working very well.
Well, based on what you just said, how do you, I guess, the difference between small businesses and large businesses? I mean, is it possible for a small business to be as successful and compete against an enterprise on LinkedIn?
Oh, absolutely. I think small businesses have actually sometimes more advantages than big companies do, because a small business has the benefit of being flexible. They can be more responsive than a big company that may have committees that are deciding their marketing spend. But I think it goes back to where are you spending your time, money, and resources. And I wouldn't, if I was a small business selling, especially to other businesses, I wouldn't spend time on Facebook or Twitter. I'd spend all my time on LinkedIn. One, am I out there making sure my profile is there? Am I participating by posting? Am I putting status updates in frequently? Am I reaching out to other people in groups? Groups is still a very powerful way for a small business to engage directly with the audience. And not showing up with, hey, look at me and look what I have to sell, but truly trying to be of service and value in those conversations. Because another tactic that a small business can do much better than a large company could is every time someone looks at your profile, why don't you just send them an email right back through the LinkedIn system, say, I noticed you looked at my profile, can I be of service or help to you? And that's something where small business can be so much more responsive and flexible, and the tools in LinkedIn for free allow you to engage in that type of behavior that allows you to build connections that build to actual monetary value.
So in your opinion, you would choose LinkedIn over Facebook or Twitter really any day?
I would say as most things, it depends on the context of what you have, right? If I am selling cat pictures, maybe Facebook is better for me. But if I'm selling things that tend to be more expensive, things that tend to be in a longer life cycle, or software that has a business focus, right? Those I would go to LinkedIn too. But I don't want to just say it's only B2B, because in the B2C space, you're seeing some major brands also doing some amazing things. When someone gets a job promotion, they reach out to them in LinkedIn and say, hey, would you like to go and test drive this new car? Because obviously you have it. Think of the mortgages. Think of all the things professionals buy. They're buying mortgages, they're buying cars, they're worrying about schools, they're worrying about lifestyle things. And the difference, I think, between LinkedIn and Facebook and where you allocate your time is LinkedIn audience tends to have more disposable income. They're working. So when you're thinking of the products you want to sell to them, maybe a realtor would see more success on LinkedIn than Facebook. Because on LinkedIn, you know they have a job and can qualify to buy a house. Those are the things that I would look at for context, but I think that people, if anything, are not looking at it enough, and they deserve to be there.
One area that we all know on LinkedIn, you know, a company, it can have followers, it's great, but the individual really has the true power. So what do you tell businesses that try to get their individual employees on board with being ambassadors for them? How do you do that?
It's painful. So LinkedIn has a product called Elevate that tries to solve that, but it's very expensive. What we talked about at our session here at PubCon was one of the ideas is maybe just turning over your LinkedIn accounts to the marketing professional to let them do the work on behalf of those people. You know, a salesperson, if you have a sales team, they should be constantly updating their LinkedIn profile, right? But they may not be marketing to the way that you want them to market. So one way, of course, is sending them emails and reminding them. And then the other way, of course, is getting permission to access their account and do the work on their behalf. So these are some ways that a smaller business can really help amplify their LinkedIn presence by just taking it into a central group and working it that way. Obviously training your salespeople, training really anyone who's dealing directly with the end customer, that's also a thing that you should be doing continuously, is why you should be doing it, how you should be doing it, and then evaluating how they did it to give them positive feedback on how to do it better.
All great info on LinkedIn marketing. Thank you so much, Sean. We really appreciate
Abby,
it.
thank you so much for allowing me to talk about LinkedIn, something I'm a little bit passionate about. And if you want to know more, I have a show called The Missing Link at missinglink.fm.
Perfect. We appreciate it. I'm Abby Johnson with SugarSpun Marketing.